Let's talk chord movements. Common chord progressions that you're gonna see in jazz. If you've studied jazz for any length of time, you probably know a lot of these. But if you're just getting into jazz, these are the things to look for and listen for. The quintessential jazz chord progression is a 2-5. What the heck does that mean? Essentially, they are the diatonic seventh chords, which is a fancy way of saying skip every other note in a pitch collection until you have 4 notes built off of the second degree and the 5th degree. So, C major, 1, 2. I can build a diatonic seventh chord by skipping every other note in the key of C until I have 4 notes. I'll give me a D minor 7. Moving to a 5 chord. The diatonic 7th chord built off of the 5th degree is a dominant 7. Major triad with a flat 7th. Or I like to think of it as the naturally occurring diatonic 7th chord built off of the dominant scale degree. All scale degrees have some sort of name. Tonic, subdominant, dominant, supertonic. That's not too important. So you can find a 2-5 by building a diatonic 7th chord off of the 2nd and 5th degree. Or you could think of it as a minor chord and a dominant chord separated by a perfect 4th or descending down a perfect 5th. So I got 2 notes, perfect 4th right here, A and D. I can play A minor and a D dominant 7th, any type of D dominant chord. And that's a 2-5. You'll see 2-5s all over the place. Let's add on to that a little bit and talk about turnarounds to 1. The simplest turnaround to 1 that involves the 2-5-1 is a 1-6-2-5. Hey guys, firstly, I just want to say thank you for being here. Secondly, 1-6-2-5, 2-5-1, what the heck is that? G dominant 13? Some of you might be confused by what the numbers mean. Just so you know, I've got 30 slots available as of the day I'm recording this video. These confusing concepts are things we can go over in a personal lesson tailored to your exact needs. Reach out to my email or my Instagram. So if you've ever considered being a part of my tight-knit community, now would be the chance to get in on the action. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to me ramble, haha. And please, enjoy the rest of the video. You might notice I'm playing not exactly a G7. This is what us guitar players would call a G13. I think of many dominant chords with the extensions. G7, G13, G7, sharp 11. They're interchangeable in a lot of scenarios. Everything is context dependent, but I could play this, and that's still a 2-5-1 to me. D minor 9, G7 flat 5 or G7 sharp 11, C, and we got the nice chord, 6-9. So 1-6-2-5. Hear that a lot. We can also substitute this 1 chord, C major 7, with an E minor 7. Because an E minor 7 is just a C major 9 with the root lopped off. C major 9, E minor 7. So I can play some sort of E minor chord. That's still a turnaround to 1 in my book. Now the extensions get a little bit iffy here. I want to stay within the key, meaning this F sharp isn't in the key of C. So if I want to include an F sharp, I have to do certain things to get there, but that's another video. E minor 11 is acceptable, either of these, but not E minor 9 as a substitution for C major 7. So E minor 7, A minor 7, D minor 7, G7. And all of those minor chords we can substitute with dominant chords, and it'll still give us a turnaround to 1. So E minor becomes E7, A minor becomes A7, D minor becomes D7, G7 stays G7. We started here, went here, and now we're here. And I'll talk more about the extensions I used later on. There's a couple of general guidelines I like to live by. More on the turnaround to one later. Let's check out a minor 2-5. A lot like a major 2-5, except our 2 chord, instead of being a regular minor 7, becomes a minor 7 flat 5, and our 5 chord is usually some sort of altered dominant chord. It doesn't have to be, but an alteration is nice. The alterations are flat 9, sharp 9, flat 5, sharp 5. That's an easy way to think about it if you're a 9 to 5er, flat or sharp. So minor 7 flat 5, perfect 4th up, dominant 7 altered, this is G7 sharp 5, to a 1 minor, it's a minor 2-5. And much like the major turnaround to 1, we also have minor turnarounds to 1 that include a minor 2-5. So we could have 1, 6, but the 6th chord will also be a minor 7 flat 5. 2, minor 7 flat 5. 2, minor 7 flat 5. 5 altered. That's a common sound you will see. Another common turnaround we will see is something called a turnaround to 2. Essentially getting from the 1 chord to the 2 chord. This can be across 2 bars or 4 bars, any arbitrary number of bars. But generally, it's a 4 chord progression, and then it's divided equally. So if there's 2 bars, each chord will get 2 beats. A common one that you will see is 1, 4, 3, 6, and that 6 could be a dominant, so you could almost think of this as a 2-5 to the 2, which is a 2-5 to a minor chord, so we could almost think of that as a minor 7 flat 5. So let me play that for you. 1, 4, 3, 6, unaltered, to 2. I will make that 6th chord a dominant. We can also make the 4 chord a dominant. F13, E minor 7, E minor 7 flat 5, to A7. This is an A7 sharp 11. I'll be doing videos on more specific chord voicings at a later date, don't you worry. All of this can be experimented with shell voicings as well. Root 3rd 7th, root 3rd 6th. C major, F major, E minor, A7. And keep in mind I am on a 7 string, but I tuned down to a low A, so if ever you see this shape, just move this to the A string. Here's another common turnaround to 2 that you might see. 1, 2, 3, flat 3. If flat 3 is a minor, could be a diminished if you wanted it to be. Could be a dominant if you want it to be. The general idea is got this bass motion. Oh, did something a little bit different there. I played 1, 2, 3, 6. also got this turnaround to 2. C major 7, B7, B flat 7, A7. It's like a chromatic walk down. More on that later. So if we jump all the way back to the 2-5-1, you're not going to just see the 2 chord and the 5 chord. You're going to see a minor chord moving to a dominant chord by way of a perfect fourth, often. Usually is meant to tonicize or modulate. I've always been confused on what that when to use where. Say I'm playing in the key of C. G minor 7, C7 is a 2-5 in the key of F, but F major is a chord in the key of C. So it's just a way to get to another chord. Something that I do see is a minor 2-5 moving to the 3 chord. So in the key of C, that would be 3 chords minor, so whole step above 3, E minor, F sharp minor 7 flat 5, B7 altered, E minor 7, E minor 7 flat 5, A7 altered, D minor. So you'll see 2-5s and minor 2-5s going to other places. Let's check out the bridge to Have You Met Miss Jones. Have You Met Miss Jones is in the key of F. It actually starts with a turnaround to 2, then a little 2-5-1, then a turnaround to 1 via the 3, but on the second A, we've got a 2-5 to the 4 chord. So this is the 4 chord, B flat major 7. And then we have a 2-5 moving to G flat, or flat 2 sharp 1, however you want to think of it. Then we have a 2-5 moving to 6 major. We take a look at those 3 key centers: B flat, G flat, D. That's an augmented triad. So we're moving around key centers of an augmented triad via 2-5s. C minor 7, F7 to get to B flat 7. Now we're in the augmented triad loop. And then back to G flat. And 2-5 back to 1. That's how I think of the bridge of Have You Met Miss Jones. I like to think of these things in chunks. If I'm thinking chord, 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 it's too much information. I don't want to think about so much when I'm playing. Here's another piece of music that moves around an augmented triad via the way of the 2-5. Second half of this tune. Giant steps. So before you try to get comfy on giant steps, check out Have You Met Miss Jones. You may see more success when you inevitably tackle the tune. So you'll see 2-5s all over the place, not just going to the 1 chord, but going to other chords. You also see this thing called a backdoor 2-5. So if I'm in the key of C, if I play the 4 chord as a minor, and treat it as a 2 chord, moving to this 5 chord, and then going to 1, I've heard that called a backdoor 2-5. I don't know why they call it that, but that's just the name I've heard. It's also a 2-5 to flat 3, which against the key of C is E flat major. What's the relative minor of E flat major? C minor. Those keys are related, a little bit parallel. C major, C minor. Two fives bringing us through parallel keys and minor 2-5s. Let's talk about a way that we can use to sort of get even more out of these simple progressions and maybe recognize certain sets of chords that you see in a chart as, oh, that's just a turnaround to 2, or oh, that's just a turnaround to 1. Tritone substitution. Tritone substitution essentially means dominant chords that are functioning as 5 of something, separated by a tritone, are functionally the same. G7 and D flat 7, functionally the same. Why is that? G7, G, F, B, D flat, C flat, but we'll call this B, F. Those are equivalent frequencies. Easier to demonstrate if I just move the root, the tritone. So anytime I have a dominant chord, I can at least try out tritone substitution. And if we go all the way back to 1625, we can substitute our minor chords for dominant chords, which means tritone substitution is in play. E7, tritone away from the root, B flat, A7, tritone away from the root, E flat, D7, tritone away from the root, A flat, G7, tritone away from the root, we already talked about this one, D flat. So I could play as a turnaround to 1, or any sort of mix and match combination, like E minor, E flat 7, D7, D flat 7, 1. E minor, A7, A flat 7, D flat 7, C major. All of that is turnaround to 1. Same thing with turnaround to 2. C major, B7, E7, E flat 7, D minor 7. One final thing to think about is chord continuity. I want to keep these chords somewhat related to the key. So if I'm choosing an alteration for this 7 chord, A7, I pick the sharp 5 because this is contained in the key of C. I can pick that same note for the E7 as well. You can also pick a G, meaning E7 sharp 9. F sharp isn't in the key, so again, I would be a little bit more careful about that. I'm more comfortable using notes outside of the key if there's some sort of linear logic. So, you can play that F sharp in A7 if I'm playing this specific E minor with a G on top. Then D7 sharp 9, G13. So if there's some sort of directional logic, and you like the sound of it, if you like the sound of it, then all this theory mumbo jumbo is irrelevant. Then you can use notes outside of the key. So that's B7 sharp 11. This note is outside of the key, or this note is inside the key, but this chord is outside of the key. A7 sharp 5, A flat 7, G13. There's a linear continuity. We've also got, it's a linear continuity going upwards. The last one was a linear continuity going downwards. We've also got keeping the top note the same. That's one way to induce continuity. Alright, we've gone over a lot of stuff already. You may need to rewind this video and watch again. There's something that you didn't understand. If there's something you really didn't understand, please leave it in the comments below and I'll do my best to help you out or make a video on that in the future. Or you can always book a lesson with me or join one of my group workshops that happen multiple times weekly. And be sure to subscribe. Hear more of my musical rants. Practice!